So we say in the Arabic, La ilaha illallah, meaning that only Allah is real. Everything else is illusion. We also say in the Sanskrit, Brahman Satyam, Jagat Mithya. Brahman, like Allah, is a name of Supreme Being. Like we say, Supreme Being is a name for our ultimate reality. So we say, Brahman Satyam Jagat Mithya, that Brahman is truth, reality, eternal. It's real. It never stops existing. To be real, it should never stop existing. For the unreal, it has no endurance. It's here for a brief period and then it goes back into the elements, just like the tree, just like the grass, just like this material. It's here for a brief period of time, then it dissolves back into the elements again. So it does not endure. The real never cease existing. The unreal has no endurance, you see. So we say Brahman, Supreme Being, God, Allah, the Most High, is the only reality. Jagat, this material world, is illusion. So we say essentially the same thing in the Arabic, La ilaha illallah. And so the goal, when you see those who really don't stop, keep looking deeply into the nature of reality, whether we call ourselves Muslims, one who submits, and we submit so that we can constantly remember Allah. We submit everything, always thinking about Allah. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, always think of me, become my devotee. He's speaking as Supreme Being. Supreme Being is manifesting through what we call the body of Krishna. Always think of me. By offering everything all the time, surrendering, submitting everything to the Most High, submitting everything to the Most High, it causes us what? To always think of the Supreme. By always thinking of the Supreme, we're associating with the Supreme. We're remembering the Supreme because we're in forgetfulness. We have to brush all the dust off the mirror. It's like we have a smoke here, but we fan the smoke and the fire comes out. So the spiritual practice is fanning the smoke, always cleaning the mirror. And those are some things from Bhagavad Gita. So we say as the baby is covered by the womb, as the mirror is covered by dust, as the fire is covered by smoke, so our pure intelligence is covered by various degrees of ignorance of self, forgetfulness of self. So remembrance of self is blowing. Our whole spiritual practice is fanning that smoke, or cleaning that mirror of all the dust, or having the baby to come out of the womb and then separating from it. So we're really just coming back to the self. And so it's not a matter of going somewhere else. The self is here. Eternity is here in this present moment. There's no yesterday nor tomorrow. We know that. There's no past. There's really no future. What we call in the future, we're making right now, and we're just waking up into the reality of now. Eternity is here now. Our Supreme Being is here now. See, this supreme reality, this supreme bliss, this infinite knowledge, eternity is now. And this is why we don't want to die. This is why we don't want to be ignorant. This is why we want to be happy. This is the nature of the self. The nature of the self is often called Sat-Chit-Ananda. But as we said before, even beyond the chit, the knowledge, is that infinite bliss of the self, which is beyond knower, knowledge, knowing, and known. It's beyond all that. It's eternal. It's present here in this moment. And this is why we don't want to die, because the self is eternal. But as long as we're living in the illusion that the self is a material body of some particular designation or some particular creed or color, nationality, then we can never get into the self. We first come to the spiritual platform, and that means we start seeing the self as eternal spirit, looking out through the body. Not the material body looking, but looking out through the body. From here, we're looking out from the sixth chakra. The pineal gland is like an antenna or it's a conduit through which that eternal being manifests itself. From the pineal gland throughout the whole body. That energy, frequency, vibration permeates every atom, of course, being every cell that makes up the material body. So our business is to start relating to the self as a spiritual being, and we worship the Supreme as spirit. But as long as we're in ignorance of thinking the self as a particular material designation, we cannot get into the higher knowledge. And it doesn't matter which particular creed or color, caste or class or race or whatever designation we've come from. We cannot get into this knowledge by relating to the material body as being the self. We have to come to the spiritual platform, and that is a revolution. That's 180 degrees. We change from looking at the self as material to seeing the self as spirit. From looking at the self as a temporary material phenomenon and seeing the self as a eternal spirit beyond all designations. And our source, our supreme being, is that supreme spirit beyond all designations. Beyond past, present, future, outside of space and time, within and beyond space and time, within and beyond 1 and 0, because we know 0 is that point where we say, when you get so small, you more and more subtle, beyond the subatomic particles, beyond the spaces in the subatomic particles, that nothingness, no thingness, which is beyond no thing. And we understand and realize, experience, that something can come from nothing because of gravity. As we went from the gross to the subtle by way of the molecules and the atoms, the protons, neutrons, electrons, subatomic particles on out beyond the quarks to the spaces between that nothingness between subatomic particles, we can reverse that and contract, make the contraction from nothingness to the spaces between the subatomic particles, back down to the atomic particles, back down to the molecules, and back down to this whole situation here from the gross. So we can go from something to nothing and from nothing back to something, but there's a witness of that. Who's watching this process? Who's the eternality? Why? We say this is Supreme Being, the changeless one, which is beyond 0 and 1. Beyond any numerical qualifications or verifications, beyond the beyond, Sadhu I used to say, beyond the beyond, indescribable. We can experience it. So those who say that you cannot, there's no such thing as experience, we would ask, who is this experiencing that there's no such thing as experience? See, there's that witness, there's that knowingness. See, that experiences nothingness. There's that knowingness that experiences the fact that there is nothing. There's something that's knowing that there is nothing. No thing. There's that eternal, sometimes we call it the eternal witness, which you can know when you experience it, but you can't see it outside of the experience. You cannot. That's as far as we know at this point. You have to engage in a process, so the process brings you back to the experience of it. So we can experience it, and we can recall it. It can be recalled, but outside of experiences, one cannot see it, but one can experience it. See? So one can recall it, recall the experience, but within the experience, one can only experience it. So we can recall it. So I think someone said when you're in the love, you just know you're in it. You can recall it, but when you're in it, there's just the bliss of being it. There's no knower there. It's only the experience. So this is the goal of our life, and this is the goal of yoga. Yoga is universal. It's not confined to any particular nation. Not confined to any nation. It's open to everyone. Because we say this supreme being, this supreme reality, it's within every sentient being out here. It's not like it's just pervades and transcends human beings' brains. You see? How does an ant know how to build an anthill? If you see some shots of ants under the ground, they'll have a whole city up under the ground there. There are many outlets there. Where do the ants get this intelligence? So we say that this supreme intelligence is within all sentient beings out here. It's not confined to human beings. It pervades and transcends everything. So when we say our supreme reality, sometimes we call it the big I and the little I. Some call it I and I. But the goal of life is to reawaken to our relationship with this supreme reality, which is known by many names, but it's within and beyond all names. It's within and beyond all forms. So it's not confined to any particular form. And human beings do not have a monopoly on this. Who are we to say that the bird, that this supreme reality, this supreme intelligence does not pervade and transcend the brain stuff of a bird? We can't say that. That doesn't stand to reason and common sense. So we hold on to the knowledge that we have until we get to a superior knowledge. Because who's to say that there was a time when we didn't know what we know now? We all know there was a time when we didn't know what we know now. So why should we shut down and say that, well, the book that I'm reading now or the knowledge that I have now is the highest knowledge, is the greatest knowledge? That doesn't stand to reason and common sense. So we say we accept what we have now until we get a superior knowledge, or a knowledge that better stands to our reason and common sense. If it doesn't stand to our reason and common sense, no matter who said it, no matter if Brother Peace said it, no matter which book said it, we should be able to think critically. If it stands to our reason and common sense, then we should have been able to deconstruct it as well as reconstruct it very, very systematically. So this is spiritual science. We can deconstruct it, we can reconstruct it. We can deconstruct it and look at every part that makes it up, and it all stands to our reason and common sense. Otherwise, we should discard it until it makes sense to us. Stands to reason and common sense. So the introduction was talking about the benefits of this yoga, the goal of this yoga, the four yogas that we're primarily dealing with was the Jnana Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga, the Karma Yoga, and the Raj Yoga. Gathering knowledge, being devoted to this truth, offering everything to this truth, and meditating on this supreme truth. And this is the way we can clean up and reawaken to our original position, which is divine reality. And we do this as an offering to our Supreme Being. And as offering to our Supreme Being and serving our Supreme Being, we love and serve the whole creation. We say we water the root of the tree, and we nourish every leaf, every bud, every flower, every branch of the tree. So by serving our Supreme Being, who is the root of the whole creation, we do the maximum good for the whole creation. One might say you're doing some good, but is it maximum good? We say to serve the Supreme is to serve everyone. To love the Supreme, to reawaken our love to the Supreme Being, is to reawaken our love for everyone. So love is the answer for us. But how can we love? We got to awaken to our love for the source of all living beings, the source of the affection of all living beings. Okay, so Om Tat Sat.